Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Happy to be here on the live stream with you. Welcome, welcome. I'm just going to give the humans time to pop on. If you're watching this on the replay, let me know that you came here. Give me a hashtag replay. Hello, Meredith. Happy Tuesday. I almost said happy Monday because it feels a little bit Monday-ish to me, but it's Tuesday. Hi, Lauren. So happy that you are here. I'm just going to take a deep breath and land here with you. Just got off a mastermind call with my 10-hour mastermind. And we moved some pretty intense stuff today. Oh, I'm so happy that you made it live for the very first time. Welcome, welcome, welcome. For anybody else popping on, I cannot really see. Say hello as well. Today, I want to talk about moving the needle in your business, in your life, in anything really. This kind of applies across the board. But it's something that I see a lot of people get tripped up on over and over and over again. And this happens at various places and spaces and levels in your business in different ways. But it's often the determining factor between the people who ultimately have success and hit the goals and get the things that they want versus the people who don't. And that, of course, is not necessarily a hard and fast rule because there's always going to be exceptions to everything. But by far and large, there is one thing that really moves the needle for people more than anything, and that's showing the fuck up. And I know it seems annoying and it seems oversimplified, and you might feel like I'm showing up and I'm not getting the things that I want. But it really is about taking action consistently and showing up over and over and over again, even when you don't want to, even when you don't feel like it, even when you don't necessarily feel like you have anything to say. And I don't mean that from a hustle standpoint, because obviously we all know I'm very anti-hustle. We know that I don't subscribe to doing things that aren't actually going to be effective, but it is about getting really, really clear on what is effective in your business. And I see far too many people getting stuck in various places in their business with self-doubt and inaction, trying to find the exact right thing. What is the exact right niche? What is the exact right messaging? What is the exact right program to launch? What is the exact right container for me to do this work? And they stay in kind of like a gestative creation mode, trying to figure out all of the exact right things that they're supposed to be doing and saying and creating and, showing up as that. There's no actual movement happening. So it is kind of like this perceived, it's like this fake out that we do with ourselves, where we make it feel like we're doing a lot of work by doing a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of internal, but we're showing up far more for our confusion than we are for our actual action and for our mission. And so that's what I want to talk about today, because it's way too easy to get stuck in the cycles of confusion, in the cycles of doubt. And the reality is, and having a background in human design, I can tell you that most of us have open head and ajnas, and we're not meant for certainty. That's just kind of the fact of life. And in business, there's never going to be certainty. There's never going to be a burning bush or a light, that this clouds are going to open up in the sky and the voice of God is going to come down and tell you exactly what to do in that moment. Maybe, I don't know what kind of trippy plant medicines you're on. Potentially these things could happen. But even then, is there a guarantee that that's going to be the thing No, that's intuitive guidance. And so much of moving forward in your business is simply learning to fucking trust yourself, simply learning to show up and keep putting one foot right in front of the other, even if you cannot see the whole pathway. And just making decisions and executing and trusting yourself that if you fuck it up, if you make the wrong call, you can go back and you can fix it. If you launch something and it flops, cool, you can learn something and you can launch something new and have a better crack at it. If you write something and it doesn't land correctly, great, that's information. There's a common saying that my coach that I worked with for over a year and a half, Julia Wells, always says is that it's always working. And if you play in any of Julia's containers or in her group, you'll see a lot of us saying that all the time. Like, it's always working. It's always working. It's always working. And that's not because it's always actually working. That doesn't mean that we're always getting the exact result that we intend and desire all of the time. What it means is that even when it's not working, that's information that we can utilize to figure out where we need to go next. So in that sense, everything is always working because you're never actually failing. You are simply learning new things. You're learning what not to do. You're learning what doesn't work. You're learning what you don't like. But you have to be willing to keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep on doing things, keep on trying in order to figure your way out. Otherwise, you'll literally sit there and never do anything. And when you are doing things, you have to be in full on commitment to it. You have to be like all in, not like a little bit in, not just trying things out, right? Because I've seen a lot of other people do this too, in that, you know, they're constantly kind of like trying to suss out their messaging. They're trying to figure out what it is that they do. They're trying to figure out who it is that they serve. They're trying to maybe up level from like one level of service and client, like into the next level of service and client. Maybe they're wanting to work with a different type of person and they're trying to shift a little bit. And so like they ease in a little bit, but they don't do it consistently or confidently. There's not a really clear, like, hey, this is what I do. This is how it's going to help you. This is the results you're going to get. And this is why you should pay me for this. And ultimately, that's what people need. They need to know what you do, what problems of theirs it's going to solve, why they should pay you for it, and who they're going to be on the other side of it. And if you cannot tell them that, they're not going to pay you. And this is why there's so many broke life coaches out there, is because we can't go around selling people that like, if you work with me, you're going to like feel better. Like, what does that mean to people? Right? You have to be able to go in and say, this is a very specific problem that you have. This is a very specific solution that I have to this. And on the other side of working with me, on the other side of this program, on the other side of this thing that we're going to do together, this is what your life is going to be like. And that is worth paying me for this. And if you cannot do that, people are not going to want to buy from you. And so just getting really clear on those things. And I think that there's a lot of permission if you are someone who's newer, if you are somebody who is still trying to figure out what it is you're here to do in the world. I think giving yourself permission to just build a container instead of an entire brand can be really permission giving. It's like, what if I just want to sell 2 spots in this like one specific type of thing, this one specific type of work, so I can try that out, get really clear, go all in on that, and then I can readjust. And if you're somebody who's like trying to find the exact right messaging to call your people in, like, it's that clarity of what is it exactly you do. And there is a certain time and a place for like a more esoteric frequency type sales. But if you do not currently have an audience, if you do not currently have people buying from you, now is not the time to be trying to get people to buy from you from frequency. They want to buy from you from results. And so the more we can laser in, the more we can get really, really clear on what it is we do, who it is that we help. And it doesn't have to be in like a schmarmy ideal client avatar kind of way, right? It just has to be really specific to you and to who do you want to work with, and what is the thing that you want to talk about the most right now? What is the thing that sets you on fire in this moment? And going and then building that out for people, because we don't want to just be talking into people's pain points and hammering at their problems, because that doesn't really make them want to buy either. When you just make them feel like shit in your marketing, you really want to sell them into the possibility of how their life is going to change. Who do they get to be on the other side? What is their life going to be like once this problem is no longer a problem for them, right? And so for me, for example, my clients, a lot of them come to me for a variety of different reasons, because I have clients who work with me who are brand new in their business, who have no idea what the fuck they're doing or what they even really want to do in the world. And they're just kind of feeling called into doing something more. They're called into starting a soul or purpose-led business. And that's what they come in at that point. And I also have people who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, multiple six figures in their businesses, and they're kind of feeling swallowed alive. But I have people at all of the range, like in the 10-hour work week, which just started this week. I have a handful of six and multi-six figure entrepreneurs and like CEOs. One just had a baby and is like trying to like reorient her life and her business to now having an infant, because it cannot run the same as it before. Another one is a six-figure earner who is, struggling with neurodivergencies and is really just had some health issues over the fall and the winter, and is really trying to like lean. She only is working like maybe 8 to 10 hours a week, and is really trying to learn how to maximize that and how to utilize her team better and make sure everything is getting done, even if she can't be there and in it all of the time. A full on like pleasure queen who really like, I would have not have thought would have wanted to sign up for my work, because I feel like she is killing it in so many of the areas that I teach on. And she was like, no, like watching you makes me want to go deeper, makes me want to like lean into my edge more. It makes me feel like I could squeeze a couple more hours out. I could make it a little bit easier. Like I could revamp my schedule and make it a little more spacious. And like, she really wanted to lean into that edge. But then there's people who are coming in who are in burnout or who have been in burnout and now need to learn how to slow themselves down and how to regulate their systems and their schedules to a slower pace of doing business and working. And then I have people who were in burnout who swung all the way to the other side of like complete and utter laziness, sloth pace, that need to kind of get ushered back in and self-regulate back to the pace of doing something. Because that's a really common thing that I see happen, is that people exist on like two ends of the spectrum, where they're either overworking all the time and they're in burnout, or they're like over here where they're fully just like laid out, cannot do anything. And it's really common to overcorrect when you are moving from one end into something more balanced. When we're trying to find balance in everything, there's a process of self-regulation that typically starts with an overcorrection. And this is something that I experienced as a parent, because I'm an unschooler, right? And so when we first started using an unschooling method in our schooling and our parenting, it required something called deschooling, right? Which is essentially deconditioning from all of the things that you've learned. And so when we wanted to kind of allow our children to do what they wanted to do and kind of like take the lead with their interests, we first had to let them go for their interests, and we had to allow them to lead. And so going from like rigid sitting down and doing like times tables, math worksheets, to allowing them to lead us with their interests looked like a lot of fucking video games, a lot of watching TV, a lot of playing Barbies, a lot of going outside and playing, because that was what was interesting to them. And for the longest time, I was like, oh my God, this is failing. They're not going to learn anything. They're absorbing nothing. All of their interests just have to do with wanting to play Roblox all of the time. But that's it's an example of an overcorrection, as that like they went from never being able to play Roblox to unlimited access to Roblox, which meant that they wanted to play it all of the time. But really, it was not too long before they realized that like they got burnt out on Roblox. They didn't feel good when they were laying in bed, staring at their phone, playing video games all day. And so they eventually started to self-regulate. And this is something that we all do. It's the same kind of concept between intuitive eating. And there's a lot of fear that can come in, just like my fears with my kids be having unfettered access to video games, that I thought that they were just going to play video games all day, which I can proudly and confidently say now, years later, they do not just play video games all day. They have very well-rounded, active lives. But it's the same concept in intuitive eating of, you know, if I just let myself eat whatever I want to eat. Well, like, what if I want to eat a whole sleeve of Oreos? What if I want to eat an entire bag of potato chips? And in intuitive eating, it's like, well, then you eat a whole fucking bag of potato chips. You eat the entire sleeve of Oreos. Like, if that's what you want, if that's what your body's asking you to do, then that's what you do. But eventually you're going to realize really quick that like eating the whole bag of potato chips, eating the whole sleeve of Oreos leaves you nauseous and feeling terrible and gives you a terrible hangover the next day. And so you're actually not going to want to do it. And next time you want to eat chips, you're not going to want to eat the whole bag. You're only going to eat a couple Oreos, and then you're going to feel satisfied, because you're going to learn really quick that swinging to the other end of that spectrum is not actually conducive or fulfilling to you. And so we do this with productivity in our business, where we're taught to work all of the time. And a lot of times we have feared that if we slow down, if we allow ourselves to be lazy, if we allow ourselves to just cut back and rest, that we're going to somehow like melt into the couch and like adhere ourselves to the fabric, and they'll have to like cut us out of bed eventually on like some bad TLC show, because we'll just turn into these big lazy sloths. It's the same thing with pleasure. What if I start incorporating pleasure and then I just become this like hedonistic pleasure whore? And all I want to do is have like pleasure all the time. And like, and now I'm just this pleasure whore and I'm not accomplish anything. Now I'm just this lazy hoe and I'm not actually getting anything done. And like, if we give ourselves too much permission, and I'm going to be honest with you, sometimes this happens. Sometimes you do like drown yourself in pleasure and you just want to like lay around and like eat chocolates and like rub rose petals all over your body and like have orgasms all day. Like, you can totally swing to that end of the spectrum, and like, that's going to be okay. You might, if you allow yourself to be lazy, if you allow yourself to rest, you may just lay in bed and watch Netflix for a fucking week or 2 weeks or a month. And that's okay, because that's what your body needs in the overcorrection for you to then find your self-regulation. Because ultimately, as humans, we're not wired for laziness. We're not wired for being unproductive. We deeply desire to be productive. Our energy has just been co-opted so much that like our resources are so depleted that when we're released, when we cut those chains of needing to have to be productive for the sake of society and for the sake of our bosses and our jobs and our human existence, that when we cut those chains and those cords and set ourselves free, sometimes we need to lay in bed and watch Netflix for a long ass time. I held a client through an entire year of doing a whole lot of fucking nothing while we just like magicked up 6 figures worth of income from nowhere, because what she desperately needed was to rest and recover from burnout from a hospital system that did not care for her, recover from chronic health issues, things like that. And I held her through that. And then as we're easing her back into her business, it is really this balance of like, okay, like how do we bring you back into the business in a regulated way? Because all she knows is how to go balls to the wall. So all she knows is how to swing all the way back to the other side of the spectrum. And so what I have been what we're working on in the program, right, is helping her find that balance. And balance is where we want to lay. That's where we ultimately want to live our lives, is in the balance, right? Where we're productive, doing things that we love, doing things that we enjoy, doing things that we want to do, not productive because we need to prove our worthiness, because we need to earn our keep here on the earth, because we need to live up to society standards. And so it's always finding that balance and allowing yourself the grace. And so if you're working like in a 9-to-5 job right now and you haven't been able to leave, to go full time in your business, like that's okay. That's okay. And it's a completely different story for you when you're working, whether it's 20 or 30 or 50, 60, 70 hours in a corporate, like muggle job, I call them. If you're working in a job like that, it is understandable that the energy that you have for your business is gonna be finite. And so for me, it's always about trying to figure out with my clients, how can we be creative in figuring out how to utilize the energy that you do have and the time that you do have to maximize it to capacity? So how can we make the biggest impact, and how can we move the needle in the biggest way with really clear, directive, intentional action? And so much of that, kind of like rewinding and circling all the way back, is coming back to decision, because the more indecision, the more self-doubt, the more lack of trust that you have, and the more unwillingness you have to just like pick something and go with it, the more time and energy you're going to be wasted, because it is immeasurable the amount of mental capacity and like soul and even physical energy it takes to feel stuck, frustrated, confused, angry, annoyed, any of the above things. If you're stuck in cycles of confusion and lack of clarity, you are bleeding time and energy. And so sometimes it's not about finding the perfect thing. Sometimes it's about picking a thing and fucking running with it and trusting that you're going to learn, whether it goes swimmingly, whether it does not, whether it's a massive success, a massive failure. It's okay. You're going to keep going. You made a decision. You're going to trust yourself, and you're going to trust that there's lessons in the learning, in the doing, in the living. And so that's something that I'm really good at helping my clients with once they get inside my containers, is really pinpointing like, how much time do you have? How much energy do you have? And what are going to be the most effective and efficient strategies for you to get the most bang for your buck, time and energy wise, so that you're doing the least amount of work for the most amount of impact and growth, and not in like a schmarmy way that is like trying to do as little as possible and make as much as possible on the backs of teams or anything like that. There's always a time and a place for delegation. If you have resources, not everybody does. Not everybody has team. Not everyone has places to delegate to. And so there's definitely ways that we work around through delegation, depending on what your resources are and what you're at. But at the end of the day, if it comes down to it and you don't have a lot of resources, then we're just going to go from delegation to elimination. And we are going to cross everything off the fucking list that isn't an absolute must-have in your business. And that's where you start to feel the spaciousness open up. Is when you start getting really clear on what's actually important, what needs to be you, what doesn't need to be you, what computers can do, what other people can do, what doesn't even need to be on the fucking to-do list, because there is so much crap on the internet that people will tell you that you absolutely need to do in your business that you don't fucking need to be doing at all. At all. One of the things I'm teaching in the 10-hour workweek group program, which just started yesterday, is automate, delegate, eliminate. So like, what can we put on, what can we automate? What can we put in computers? What can we have working for us that just like AI is taking care of? Delegate, what can we give off to other people? Whether that's team and business stuff, whether that's domestic stuff in the household that you can give off to partners or teenagers or mothers or whatever, babysitters, like cleaners, any of the things. I'm telling you guys, I'm going to give you a little life hack here right now. Okay. One of my biggest secrets in life is that having cleaners house cleaners is life-changing. For me, having house cleaners is like right up there with investing in your business. For real. Because it is such a heavy emotional load and physical labor to just take care of a house. And if you are trying to run, if you're running a business, and working a job, if you're raising babies, if you're doing things like that, shit is non-stop. And by taking even a little bit of it off your plate, even if it's only once a month, even if it's once every 2 weeks, even if like they're not doing all the things, but they're getting to some of the things, right? It can be such a release and a relief. I'm telling you guys, it's life-changing. And I feel like it's really highly underrated, and you can get, and it's not that expensive. My whole life, I thought having clean airs come to my house was going to be this like really super expensive thing. And it was like something like only like really bougie rich people thing, like rich people did. And then I like realized how much it cost. And I was like, oh, and well, like granted, 2 years ago, I would not have been able to afford it at all. So like, I don't say that lightly. It really is not as inaccessible as I thought it was. And it has had just as profound an impact on my life and my business and like my body and my well-being as my business coaching has. I kid you not, because it is such an incredible thing. So if you have the ability, you know, so delegating doesn't just have to be delegating business tasks, because if you could, you know, even things like delegating your groceries, if you can spring the extra $30 or whatever to have the groceries delivered through Shipt or Instacart or something, like think about how long it takes you to like drive to the grocery store, do the shopping, come, you know, like drive home, like all of that. You're looking at an hour to an hour and a half of time that you're saving that you can be working on other things, right? So even something as easy as, you know, or like could be delegating to Instacart, right? Or like automate. You could make crock pot meals instead of cooking dinners. Like there's so many creative ways that you can automate, delegate, eliminate to clear a lot of time and space where you're doing a lot of things that can be shifted around to give you more breathing room. Because when you have more breathing room, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have more clarity. Your creativity is going to ramp up, and you're going to be able to make these decisions a lot clearer when you are weighed down by constant like mental load of all of the things that you have to do. I think of all of the things that we do as women and all of the things that we carry in our heads, right? Like if I asked any of you right now, how many rolls of toilet paper in your house, I bet you every single one of you could answer in the chat right now. Every single one of you on this right now can probably tell me how much milk is or is not in the fridge. We carry an incredible mental load, and it is exhausting. So anything we can take off that plate, automate, delegate, eliminate, right? We can take this all off of our plate, and that actually opens us up to more creative juices, to more clarity, so we can actually make decisions better and execute better, and our executive functions start to like come back from being afraid and distracted and feeling like your brain is just like melting all of the time. Do you guys feel like your brain is melting all of the time? Because that's a real fucking thing. And when I start to feel really brain melty, that's because I know I haven't had enough space. So I need to look at what's been going on, what's been happening, and where I can simplify things. I love seeing everyone telling me how much milk they have, how much toilet paper they have, all of the things. It's so fucking good. You guys are proving me right. And so really, you know, all of this to basically say, the more you can just stay, you know, the more you can clear yourself space, so that way you can make decisions, and then out of your decision, like you could just like fully commit. When you make a decision, fully commit. You don't have to be fully convinced that it's absolutely the right decision, because there's no way to know. Guess what? Like one of my old coaches, Stefan Lovegrove, used to always say to me, there is only choice and it is yours. There is only choice and it is yours. We exist in a universe full of possibilities. And every moment of every second of our lives is a point with infinite possibilities shooting off of it. And every choice you make is like a choose your own adventure that turns you to the next page, that takes your story in a different direction. And then the next moment you make new choices and that shapes your direction again. And then the next moment you make new choices and you shape it all again, which means that every single thing you do or don't do, every single second, you have the opportunity to jump into a new timeline, to shift your reality, and to realign the course of your entire life. And that is wildly exciting and wildly terrifying. But at the end of the day, it gives you so much grace, because I want, like, if you picture like a fork in the road, like at an impasse, right? And you come to this point and you go left or right, right? You go this way or you go this way. If we start going this way, right, this path is going to continue going this way. Can you imagine this like line for me, this line going off this way? And then at a certain point, if you go this way, but you decide to make a new decision and turn, you will eventually catch back up with this line. And so can you trust yourself that every decision is the right decision? Can you be in radical self-approval and trust yourself to get the information that you need to end up going where you know you're supposed to go? So just decide. Decide what you want. Decide what you want to do. Decide what you want to say, and go. And make sure you're clearing plenty of space for yourself along the way, so that way you have room to breathe, so that way you have room to create, so that way you have room to think and make decisions. What can you automate? What can you delegate? What can you eliminate? What gets to go? What has to stay? What's important to you? Your values play into this a lot. What's important to you? My family is the reason why I do any and all of this, the reason why I started this. The reason why the 10-hour work week exists is because of my family, because I had to figure out how the fuck me, a single mom, college dropout, beauty school dropout, recovering addict, stay-at-home mom for nearly a decade, was going to suddenly be able to raise 3 kids and pay for an entire household. So I started a business. That's how all of this, so it was always a priority of mine to make sure that I was able to do everything that I do in a small amount of time so that I could focus on what was important to me, which was my family. My values are the driver for everything that I build, as your values should be the driver for everything that you build, the things that are important to you. Vulnerability, transparency. So you're always going to see me giving it to you real, telling you exactly like it is, telling you all the dirty, nasty stuff about my life and my past and my present. And when the things don't fucking work out, which is why I did an entire program around launching and failed to fucking launch, had 0 signups in front of everybody, in front of 30 fucking plus people. And I taught them how to fail a launch well. And then I showed them how to go and launch a new program and sell that shit out. And I trusted myself, even when that was happening, even when I wasn't getting signups, I trusted myself that I'd made the right decision. And you know what? Those 30 plus people in that program benefited the fuck out of my failure. And I trusted that. I didn't slip into a shame spiral. I didn't waste a whole bunch of time second guessing myself. I held my energy the whole way because I trusted myself to make the right decision. And I went with it, and I stayed fucking committed. My values are leadership and integrity. Thank you, Heidi, as someone who got to be witness to that. My values are leadership and integrity, which is why I'm always willing to go first, which is why I'll even fail first in front of my people. Because I'm never going to ask you to do anything that I haven't done. I'm never going to ask you to climb any mountains I have not already traversed. We go together. We rise together. And if I'm not the best person to teach you, I'll let you know that. And my values are accessibility, which is why I love showing up here live with you every Tuesday and doing these for free and just sharing and riffing and letting you guys know what you can be doing in your lives and your businesses to help you right now. Also, in the same vein of accessibility, if you guys have not seen, for the next less than 24 hours, we're at about 20 hours now, you can claim a scholarship spot in the 10-hour work week for 50% off, which means that it's 10 payments of $95 at the lowest base rate. You can get 50% off, and it's a self-qualifying scholarship, meaning you don't have to apply. You don't have to tell me why you need it. You don't have to prove with your income or with your story why you're deserving or worthy of getting the support. I believe that everyone is worthy of support. And I think that money is the stupidest reason why people don't get it, even though I have to play in the matrix because girls got bills to pay and food that needs to be put on the table and kids to support too. But I really hate it when that's the only reason why people are not in. And so if you've been wanting to work with me, if you've been wanting to step into the 10-hour work week and into this world, and you want to do this work and you want me to be able to look at your business and tell you what to automate, what to delegate, what to eliminate, no matter where you're at in business, just starting, no resources, killing it, tons of resources. If you want me to help you create a schedule and a business that you're absolutely fucking in love with, that suits you, that fits your needs. If you want me to help you grow an existing business, right? You can come to this from a million different places because we can access the tenets of this work from any place in business. It's the same stuff. It's the stuff I did when I started. It's the stuff I'm still doing now at $300,000 a year. And every step in between, the work never changed. It just shifted slightly in the way that it looked based on where I was in business. And so if the money is the only reason why you haven't joined, use code 50OFF, 50OFF in all capitals. I'll put it in the chat. And you can join for half off. And that's for you to decide. I get why there's scholarship applications and things like that. But for me, it just felt so aligned to be able to say, if you want to be in and the money was the reason why you're not in, let me help you. And obviously, I'm trusting the goodwill of all of you. I'm trying to put the link in too. It's really hard to talk and type at the same time. And obviously, I'm trusting every single person to not just try and take advantage of getting a course for 50% off, but to, I trust y'all to be fucking adults, to be adults and to know whether or not you need the support, and so this is how we do the things. And I might do this and I might never do it fucking again. This is an experiment. But again, I made a decision. I'm running with it. I'm committed to it. So far, I'm really loving it. And I'll probably do it again. But maybe not. But that's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's how we expand. And that's how we find our sweet spot. It's by making decisions, going all the way fucking in, being really committed and decided, trusting it, and giving yourself plenty of space to feel into those decisions. It starts with that. It starts with creating the space. So hopefully some of y'all will use that code if you need it or not, and step into the 10-hour work week before we close enrollment tomorrow. Our first live call is tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. The first module is up. So if you enroll, you get it immediately. And if not, then I'll see you back here next Tuesday for our next live training. It's 4:44 on the East Coast. make a wish. I love you guys. If you have questions about anything, if you want to talk about anything, if you want to talk about the 10-hour work week, leave me comments, DM me. Let's make posts. Let's keep talking. I hope this was helpful to you, and I will see you soon.